Dog pound. Okay, I got it out. Yeah. Cleveland Browns. We got some new jerseys. I like them. They're fresh. They're not. They're old school, but they're simple. And simple looks good. Brown on white. Brown jerseys, white pants. White jerseys, brown pants. White on white even looks good, and they still got that like color rush option that's more recent that they've been wearing for their home jerseys recently. Looks pretty good. I like all their uniforms, especially for their color scheme. Their color scheme is not the greatest color scheme, but it's tradition, and I like it. Browns went 6-10 last season. Freddie Kitchens screwed this team, and I'm just gonna say that this team would be so much better if they had any bit of a decent coach at all. I mean, holy crap, he was in way over his head, and it felt like everybody should have known that before he even coached any games. And even though miserably my Buffalo Bills lost to this team, wow, I have not seen a game coached much worse in my entire life. The Browns really should have beat us by a heck of a lot more than they did, but it was ugly. It was very ugly. The first drive of the season made things seem promising. They go straight down the field and they score a touchdown first drive of the game. And after watching that drive, if you said, the AFC runner-up is actually playing in this game right now, I think 99% of people thought you were talking about the Browns, and the rest of them were Titans fans. No, 1% was Titans fans, because I don't think anyone saw that coming. Skill position players on this team are insane. We got Baker, Jarvis, Odell, David Njoku, Austin Hooper, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. It's just ridiculous. It's insane the talent they've got there. We can talk about Odell's ability to catch the ball, which is he's one of the best receivers in the game, obviously, just catching wise. But I think I don't give him enough credit for how fast he is and just how good in the open field he is. He's got a ton of moves in his arsenal, and I don't think I write it later, so I'll mention it now too. Odell's kind of got the elusive spin, juke, way to get around you mindset when he gets in the open field. And Jarvis Landry, the opposite of him. He gets the ball, and in the open field, he's not as afraid of contact. He'll kind of get in the contact, and he's not afraid to, like, if he needs a few extra yards, pick him up by going through you. Joe Schobert is a hugely successful player, and I can't believe they let him go. He may be one of the most underrated players in the league purely because he was on the Browns for how much he did for them. And the thing that's funny is he signed with Jacksonville, so yeah, he'll continue to be underrated for sure. TJ Carey made one play, and I was like, is he a baller? But then he didn't make another play the entire season, so yeah, not really. Uh, yeah, Jarvis Landry, by the way. I think we're just thinking that Odell Beckham is a superstar here in the receiver room, and that's it. Jarvis Landry, when he was in Miami, was one of the best receivers in the league. I just think that once you have to like split receptions, obviously, it makes one guy look a lot better than the other. But Jarvis Landry is still an incredible receiver, and Odell's incredible too. They got two guys on the outside that I'd be really confident in. We gotta remember that this team beat the Baltimore Ravens last season. That's insane. And they kind of handled them at some points in that game, which is even stranger. So, if this team gets going on the right path, they can beat nearly anybody. It's just that it's weird because the offense got a heck of a lot better. It seems like the defense either just kind of said meh or got worse even, one of the two. Nick Chubb is really fast and he's a great player overall, but for the way he's basically able to utilize any ability he needs to in the field of play as a running back, which is a great feature. But he's also really fast. He's had multiple breakaway touchdown runs in the 2 seasons that he's played so far, and those are kind of rare to get those long touchdowns. But he's had multiple. Also, nice to see. Against San Francisco, Uh, Nick Chubb got to line up at fullback when Odell Beckham was at running back, and they hit a fullback trap for big yardage to him, and it was kind of awesome to see. Just one of those weird plays that's kind of old school and fun that you never get to see in the NFL. It was great. Baker isn't fast, but he can move just fast enough for things like a rushing TD versus Seattle, and he actually ran for 3 touchdowns this year. It's just funny because he isn't that insanely quick of a guy, but he's got just enough speed to him to move around. So he's not Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, where he's so immobile that you're rarely ever scared of him even rushing against you once in a season. So yeah, it's good. Baker is about to get sacked in. I can't remember which game it's in, but there's a play where he's about to get sacked because there's a free rusher coming off the edge, and instead of just basically ducking and taking the sack, he looks right at the free rusher and he pumps like he's throwing directly towards the free rusher. Now he's got a guy in the flats, so he could be considering throwing that, or he could have been pumping it to him. But I like the idea that he just saw that free rusher coming, pumped it towards his face so that it would just make him jump. And when that free rusher jumped, instead of continuing to try to sack him, that gave Baker just an extra second or two, and then he was able to fire a ball up the seam for a completion. It was actually a really impressive play, and I was like, wow, I don't think I've seen any other quarterbacks do that in that situation. You get a free rusher like that, people are almost always taking sacks. It's crazy. Baker really does have a lot of impressive throws too. Sometimes it just takes him a while to make some decisions, and that he ends up taking some extra sacks when he does that. Denzel Ward, a lockdown corner. I'm sure they're happy they picked him. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't be. He's an exceptional player. From the games I remember last season, the Browns were just terrible inside the red zone, and specifically inside the 10-yard line. Freddie Kitchens just didn't know what to do when they got that far down the field. He was like, "Oh, we're on the 25-yard line. I hope we score from here because I don't know what we're doing if we gain 5 or 15 or anything." It's just he just became completely incompetent inside the red zone. So, um, hopefully, they can figure that out, and I'm sure new head coach Stefanski, I'm pretty sure. Hopefully he can figure it out. He probably will because it can't be that difficult. They can't be any worse than they were in the red zone last season. Um, Chubb has amazing balance. Nick Chubb, he's running the ball. He had a great run against Arizona where his feet get like half taken out from under him, but somehow he's able to like pump his legs back up so that he can get standing back straight up, and it's an impressive run for a touchdown. I think most of the guys on this team, I think they get to like a either 6-6 or 6-7 record, and at that point they kind of knew that they were basically going to be eliminated from playoff contention, and they kind of quit on it. So the last 3 games of this season, I don't know how much value I'm gonna put into them because it really didn't seem like a lot important was going on in them, and I don't think a lot of players thought they were very important. Stats. Baker, yikes in this one. 22 touchdowns to 21 interceptions last season. That is not good. We do not want to see that, and I think that's pretty easy to understand. Joe Schobert had 4 interceptions. Just mentioning this to try to... Just going to keep mentioning Joe Schobert's stats just to try to reiterate how important he is. Denzel Ward, 2 interceptions, also had 11 passes defended on the season, and Justin Burris had 2 interceptions last season. 3 forced fumbles for Sheldon Richardson led the team. There's no way I would have known that. I don't even think I knew he was on the team. 2 forced fumbles for Joe Schobert, 2 forced fumbles for Myles Garrett. This team needs more takeaways. You could contribute a big portion of their losses to the fact of how many giveaways they had compared to takeaways. They'd compared to I guess I'm comparing them to the Steelers because the Steelers are the other team I just talked about, and holy crap, the Steelers took the ball away all the time. So maybe that's an unfair comparison, but I feel that they need more takeaways to just have more success in general. Myles Garrett had 10 sacks this season, and second on the team was Larry Ogunjobi with 5.5. Those are not very impressive numbers, though, to be honest. This team just needs more protection on the defensive side of the ball in general. You can't. But the sad thing is, Miles Garrett, Denzel Ward. Besides those two, there's a lot of just random bodies filling holes on that defense. And you got this one side where the offense is one extreme with how much talent's on it. Then the defense is like the opposite, where they filled in all the holes on offense over the past few years, and now they're still gonna fill in like all the holes on defense. Plus, they let guys go that were playing well for them on defense. So, although they did just add someone yesterday that I didn't hear about until I checked it, so he may be a very key addition. Now let's talk about tackles. Joe Schobert led the team with 133 tackles. That's yeah, just leading in everything, basically, it seems. Or most statistics. I think he was even second on the team in passes defended. I didn't even mention that. And then second place on the team with 82 tackles was Mac Wilson, who will be 22 years old this season. And he's still on the team. I saw some flashes from him last preseason, and obviously he got into these games this season, got some experience, and he's still really young. He could develop into something really nice at the linebacker position for them. The problem is that his two buddies, Joe Schobert and Christian Kirksey, are both off the team now. TFL's 11 for Miles Garrett, 10 for Ogunjobi, and guess who was in third place? Joe Schobert, because he's literally in every statistical category for this team. He's all over the field. I was surprised to see that Jarvis Landry had more yards than Beckham this season. That surprised me. And Nick Chubb had almost 1,500 yards on the ground. That's impressive. Injuries during the season. Christian Kirksey missed significant time. Eric Murray, David Njoku, Demarius Randall, and Olivier Vernon. All these players missed at least 4 games, if not more, so they were all pretty important injuries to the team. Players that left the team. T.J. Carey. Yeah, he left the team. Demetrius Harris, Christian Kirksey, Joe Schobert. So 2 linebackers, a backup tight end, probably a backup corner, maybe a starter sometimes. I don't really know if it was always Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams or what. Or actually, I have a weird feeling about Greedy Williams. Was he hurt? Is he hurt now, or was he hurt last year? He may be hurt now. I'm not sure if I'm remembering that correctly. So, T.J. Carey may have played a lot last season, but I think somebody will step into the role for him because I think he'll be playing less now. He'll obviously be playing less now for the Browns. He's on a new team. Yeah, and then after Carey, Harris, Kirksey, and Schobert, who are all pretty relative players. Harris maybe not so much because they had a lot of guys play well in the tight end room, to be honest. We have Morgan Burnett, Demarius Randall, Eric Murray, and Justin Burris all leaving the team. That's 4 safeties departing in the offseason. That is crazy. I could not believe that when I saw it. 4 safeties leaving. That's the entire roster's worth of safeties. They got to replace all of them. That's a pretty important position on the field considering it's your last line of defense for everything. Hopefully they can get on the same page. Additions in the offseason. Added Case Keenum, solid backup quarterback. This guy will be a great option if Baker ever gets injured. He'll definitely be able to, with the weapons on offense, he'll be able to put up points, I'm sure. He's plenty talented enough already to just use a mediocre offense and get some points on the board for a team. I'm sure a lot of teams would be happy with him as a backup quarterback, and I'm sure he'd be able to do plenty for the Browns if Baker ever got hurt. They also added Austin Hooper, big tight end addition. Even though the tight end room was pretty well off, all the tight ends seemed to be playing pretty well last season. Austin Hooper, just huge numbers for the Falcons. A big play guy. I think you want to add him because he is better. Even though you're getting production, he is a very good player, and it's good. It's a good ad, definitely. They had Jack Conklin, a tackle, very important. A lot of people thought this team struggled because of their line play last season. They had a fullback, Andy Janovich. pretty sure he's considered one of the better ones in the league, and they actually had a trade with the Broncos to get him. So I guess good trade for them. Carl Joseph is joining the team, safety coming over from the Raiders, pretty sure. Kevin Johnson, cornerback from the Bills. Andrew Sendejo, safety from the Vikings, who's kind of behind Anthony Harrison Smith. But I think Andrew Sendejo is actually a pretty good player. It's just behind those two guys, it's going to be hard to find time on the field. But he's played over his years, and he's gotten on the field always, even with other guys there. And Adrian Claiborne, a guy from the Falcons, who when I did the Falcons video, I was like, wow, I was really surprised by how big of a loss that was for him, for the Falcons. He had some good production last season, and I think he could have some good production for the Browns as well. Malcolm Smith, they added him more recently. I think he's most remembered for that Super Bowl play against the Broncos for the Seahawks. Wow, way back when? How long ago is that now? Like 6 years ago, or if not more, 7 years ago maybe. Wow, time flies. And lastly, a guy they added yesterday, Ronnie Harrison, safety from Jacksonville. I remember when I was doing the Jaguars video, I was really impressed with this guy, and I was like, oh, this is one of their young players that they've got. Well, guess what? They're in full tank mode, so maybe I should switch the Jaguars record prediction to 0-16. Who knows? Maybe they'll even bench Minshew for the season just so he doesn't have to deal with all this garbage. But yeah, I mean, they've still got guys like DJ Chark, though, who are going to play pretty well. And yeah. Okay, so here it is. Injuries now. Kevin Johnson is hurt. He's questionable for week 1. Greedy Williams is hurt. Questionable for week 1. So that's where the Greedy Williams injury came up. He's injured currently. Grant Delpit, a guy I haven't even mentioned yet, is out for the year as a safety. Just mentioning this because of all the secondary issues. So actually they replaced those 4 safeties they lost in the offseason with 4 new safeties, but one of them is out for the year, and he was a fairly high draft pick, so that's not good. But I think with Andrew Sendejo, Carl Joseph, and did they add another guy? No, they didn't. But Andrew Sendejo and Carl Joseph are pretty good players, and I'm sure they'll be able to figure it out back there, even without Grant Delpit for now. Also, Mac Wilson, the linebacker that I talked about, the one guy that's returning at linebacker for the Browns, while the other 2 left, is doubtful. And even Myles Garrett is questionable for week 1. This is only talking about week 1. So, I mean, these guys could all get back and play, but I mean, this is not looking good for them. The strength of this team, just looking at the roster talent, is the offensive side of the football. The entire secondary is injured. The best linebacker on the team that we know of now is doubtful week 1, and even the best defensive lineman on the team is questionable. Doesn't look good for these guys. Once again, I come into these videos with ideas of how I think the team's going to do, and then I actually look and I go through all this stuff to actually create an idea for myself how I think they're going to do. And I think the coaching makes them a lot better this year, but the defense is just bad, and it looks like they're going to be in a tough position to win some games right away at the beginning of the year. So that's kind of knocking them down. I once again like the coaching decisions a lot, changing from Freddie Kitchens because he's just terrible. But this defense is in a tough spot. I mean, if the Browns score every possession and the defense gets one stop, that'll be enough to win a game. But I don't know how often that's going to happen. Let's talk about the players they drafted. Jedrick Wills, their first-round pick. Okay, we're going to talk about how miserable the offensive line was. So they added tackle, and they added Jack Conklin in the offseason too. So now they should have each end of the line of scrimmage, at least in the tackle department, not the receiver on each end of the line of scrimmage, but the tackle department. Both of those tackle spots should be locked down. And he's a great tackle out of Alabama, big school. He played great competition, performed well against the good competition, and the pick makes sense. It just seems this team's got tackles. This team's got receivers. This team's got tight ends. This team's got running backs. This team has even multiple quarterbacks now that you can trust. So the offense is all the way there. It's just they need to match it with the defense. I can't reiterate it enough. I'm sorry. Grant Delpit, the next pick, the DB from DBU. So that's enough to tell you that he's going to be a good player. But the safety from LSU, uh, he balled out as far as I remember. But I was just like, well, he's out for the year. So I didn't even go back and watch any film on him because I had before and I thought he was really good before. I think I mocked him in the first round of my mock draft, and it doesn't matter now because he's gone for the whole year. They're going to have to figure out what's going on with that safety position, and they're not going to have young talent to do it. They're going to have some vet guys come in for it. So that's okay though, because if you get a guy like Sendejo, I think he's been in the league for, I think he's got to be at least 28 years old now. And Carl Joseph went through his entire rookie contract with the Raiders, so he's been in the league at least 4 years too. So those two guys will be able to lock things down back there and play at least a mediocre level. I wouldn't say either of those are great players, but they'll do for now. Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle, plays the run and pass very well and can use power and finesse to beat out linemen. Once again, this guy, really good pick. I liked him where they got him. Seems really balanced. I don't have anything bad to say about him. Jacob Phillips, just a guy who racked up a lot of tackles at LSU. He was the middle linebacker and he racked up a ton of tackles, but nothing I saw from him was really flashy or anything that made me go like, yeah, this is a good player. So that pick isn't the pick I love. If they I could see them just being like, oh well, if he's a tackle machine, we need to throw him in and start him at linebacker because we don't have any other options. So if they do that, I really don't like that. I mean, Joe Schobert was a playmaker, and they're replacing him with this guy who just gets a lot of tackles. It doesn't seem right. Harrison Bryant is a tight end who is considered good because he's fast, but actually just looking at his body type, he's just a normal speed receiver. He's not even big. He doesn't even look like a tight end. The only thing that makes him look like a tight end is the fact that he's wearing number 40, which at least in college you can wear whatever most of the time, but in the NFL you're not going to see a receiver wearing 40, but you could find a tight end wearing 40 every once in a while. And that's the only thing that really makes him look like a tight end, because this guy basically looks like a receiver. Unless the Browns had him bulk up in the offseason, he really doesn't. I don't know how he's going to transfer to the NFL. He's using a lot of speed to beat linebackers and stuff, get open. And there wasn't any insane catches either. It was like sometimes he'd be contested and he'd be able to make a catch, but no like highly contested catches that were very impressive like a lot of these other receivers that we saw in the draft. Just a random tight end from FAU, I think. Nick Harris, 5th round center from Washington. Once again, not much to say about him. We'll see if he can turn into anything. But lastly, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I said a few videos ago that I would start doing the off-brand player of the video, and I think I have one for Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's going to be the off-brand player of the video, but it's going to be Dez Bryant. And honestly, this receiver class, just as I've said before, is so talented. Even in the 6th round, you've got this guy like Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I'm calling off-brand Dez Bryant, which may sound bad. Most of the time it is. It's like, yeah, this guy's trying to be something he isn't. But this guy's got the talent. I mean, he's just playing. I was just watching him, and I was like, man, he's reminding me of somebody, but I can't tell who it is. And then after a while, I was like, oh my gosh, he's kind of playing like Dez Bryant. And then I started paying attention more and thinking about it more, and he really does resemble Dez Bryant in a lot of ways. And it's just, once again, seeing so much talent from the receiver position go so late hurts me on the inside so much, but it's like I saw how much talent there was in the draft at the receiver position, so I can understand why it was so hard to figure out who the good ones are. And the sad part is going to be when we find out who the bad ones are, because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of good ones, And when we get, say, one that went high that isn't such a good one after a while, it's going to be pretty disappointing to see the 20 or 30 receivers from this draft class who have long lasting careers, and your team may have been one that picked one of those receivers high that isn't even any good. Alrighty, let's talk about who the Browns have to play this season. The Browns will obviously have to play their divisional opponents. They'll have to play the Bengals, Ravens, and Steelers twice. Thinking about this, I think I still think the Bengals are going to have a really tough time in this division. I think I think Baltimore and Pittsburgh are better, much more balanced teams than Cleveland. But I think Cincinnati is lagging behind all of them just in most regards. They've got receiver talent, they've got running back talent, they've got Joe Burrow at quarterback now, obviously, but the offensive line is still pretty horrendous, if I remember correctly, and the defense isn't much to talk about either. So I'd say with that you can give the Browns the two games against the Bengals, so they can go 2-0 against them. But I have a feeling when they meet up with the Steelers this year, it may get bad. The Steelers may beat these guys twice handedly, or the Ravens too, because like I said, the Steelers and the Ravens are both pretty balanced on both sides of the balls. Their ability on the offensive side and the defensive side, and I just think the Browns are lacking on defense so much that it'll make it hard. It'll make it very hard for them to keep up. So I think they will be able to take a game against Baltimore or Pittsburgh. They get 2 games against Baltimore, 2 games against Pittsburgh. I think they'll be able to steal one of them. I don't know which one it'll be, but I think they'll go 3-3 inside of the division. 2 wins against the Bengals, 1 win against the other two teams at some point, and we'll just have to see where it falls. Because I mean, even last year they went 6-10 and they stole a game from the 14-2 Ravens. So yeah, come on. Now let's talk about who they play at home. So once again, we're leaving the division at 3-3. They're going to play the Colts at home, Eagles at home, Raiders at home, Washington football team, and the Houston Texans at home. This isn't terrible. A lot of the schedules we've been seeing recently, I feel like almost like the last 3 or 4 videos, I just start talking about their out of division opponents, and it's just like 4 out of 5 of those teams are really good. This is not so much of the case. We've got some mediocre teams, one bad team, and one team that I consider pretty good, or maybe 2 teams I consider good, 2 I consider mediocre, and 1 that I consider pretty bad. So the Washington football team is the bad one. I think they'll beat the Washington football team. I think the Raiders and Colts are also winnable games, and they're at home for Cleveland. So I think I can give them those 2 too. Given that, I'm giving them those 3. I think the Colts is kind of a toss-up game. That could be a win, that could be a loss. I think they're going to lose to Houston at home because I don't know why. I just got this good feeling about Houston, even though Bill O'Brien makes some of the strangest trades in history. I've got a good feeling about what Houston's building. So I'd say home games against non-division, they could really do. It could do 3-2 or maybe even 4-1 depending how that Colts game goes. I kind of want to leave that up in the air. Let's see. Do they have any really toss-up games on the road? They have not really as much. I guess more what I'm saying is a win guaranteed against Washington, a loss to Houston, and then in the Colts, Eagles, and Raiders game, I think they'll win 2 of those and lose 1 of them. Don't know how that falls, but it has them 3-2 against non-divisional opponents at home. So from our 3-3 record plus our 3-2 record, that gets us to a 6-5 record currently with 6 games to go. Luckily for them, not a terrible road schedule either. They've got Dallas, the New York Giants, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New York Jets, and the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee beat them last year, and that was before Tennessee really got into the rhythm that they were, where they were rolling. I think now that Tennessee's in a rhythm, Tennessee will be able to lock them down. They're just overall solid team, and Dallas has a good offense, and I think Dallas probably has more talent on their defense than Cleveland has, and Dallas will be the home team in that game. So I think they're going to lose to Tennessee and Dallas in this circumstance. But on the bright side, the New York Giants, Jacksonville Jaguars, and New York Jets are all teams that I do not have much confidence at all in. So I think I can give them those 3 games. And with that, we were sitting at a 6-5 record before looking at the away games, the out of division away games. And after looking at the out of division away games, I think they can go 3-2 in the out of division away games, which will put us at a 9-7 record for the Cleveland Browns. And honestly, just with all the other schedules I have been seeing, I would have thought this team would have been closer to 7-9 than 9-7. But looking at their opponents, I think they could reach 9-7 this year. I don't think the team is that much improved. I think the coaching is a lot better. So that'll literally any different coach would have, in my opinion, been an upgrade. So that's an insane improvement for these guys. It's just a lot of question marks on defense. I feel if the question marks on defense weren't such a concern for me, if they would have kept Schobert and maybe one of those safeties that they had from last season just as a little carryover, not be so injured right at the start of the season, that's going to make it tough. This team would probably be closer, for my prediction, to be 11-5, maybe even 12-4 if they really did everything that I just said. But right now, my prediction for the Cleveland Browns this season is 9-7, and that's where I'll leave it at. So, if you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching. 2020 president candidate.